Now, as for Alfred, yes, everyone prepared for the worst, and thankfully we didn't get it. It was pretty bad, of course, and remains bad for many people. But the tropical cyclone was downgraded to a storm before it crossed onto the land, meaning we didn't get those cyclonic winds across Brisbane and the Gold Coast as was feared. Flooding has been severe, power is out to hundreds of thousands of people still, and the situation will remain difficult and dangerous for days to come. I'll cross to Queensland later. But we can't ignore the climate catastrophists, can we? The people who push their political hobby horse, drumming up the fear and loathing. Have a look at this from the Climate Council.
I'm shattered to see Cyclone Alfred barrelling towards the Australian coast. We're being asked a lot of questions about how climate change has made Cyclone Alfred more destructive.
Dear, oh dear. Now, this stuff is not only fearmongering and opportunistic, it's just plain wrong.
We've known for a long time that climate change is making extreme weather events in Australia and around the world worse, and it's driven by climate pollution, the burning of coal, oil and gas. So it's very upsetting to see such a significant cyclone threatening Brisbane and the Northern Rivers right now, and our thoughts are certainly with communities up in that region, including a number of Climate Council staff.
We're just hoping and crossing our fingers that we've prepped enough and that the damage won't be too bad, but we do know that this cyclone is more intense, more ferocious because of climate change.
You get the sense they were hoping it would be more destructive, don't you? It ceased being a cyclone, of course, before it crossed onto the mainland. The area faced much worse back in the 1950s from a cyclone, and there was no climate alarmism then. And as I showed you last week, the science, the facts, the data from the IPCC shows that cyclones have become less common in Australia over the past 50 years or more. And there's no evidence they're more intense either. So this stuff is garbage. It's unadulterated propaganda from people who have an ideological or political stake in ramping up climate change fear. I reckon it's reprehensible. Most media just amplifies it. And of course, even the Prime Minister eggs it along.
What we know, the science tells us that there would be more extreme weather events, they would be more frequent and they'd be more intense. I think anyone who looks at the science knows that that is what is occurring. So you can't say this event is just because of climate change. What you can say is that climate change is having an impact on our weather patterns.
Why create a false impression? Why tell people what they're seeing is new when it clearly isn't? Why pretend that your policies that make our electricity supply more expensive and less reliable are actually going to have any impact on the weather when the science, of course, demonstrates they cannot? Have a listen to Albo get a bit befuddled, though, when even he admits that we've always had natural disasters in this country.
We are a land, as Ms McKellar said a long time ago, of floods and rains and wind.
Well, I don't know about wind, but most Australians know that Dorothea McKellar said we love a sunburned country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged mountain ranges, of drought and flooding rains. Yeah, we've always had them and we always will. So best try to take the politics out of it, I reckon. Which brings me to perhaps the most pathetic political attack I've ever seen against a sitting politician. Labor have tried to smear Peter Dutton because he dared to fly to Sydney last Tuesday for meetings and a fundraiser before returning to his Queensland home the following morning. We recorded an interview with the opposition leader early that afternoon, last Wednesday, as he was preparing for Tropical Cyclone Alfred.
I think everyone's in a preparation mode and just battening down and making sure that no loose objects in the yard, and it's a really important message to heed at the moment.
The storm, of course, didn't hit for another 4 days. And as we speak, Dutton's isolated by floodwaters at his farm, as he expected to be. But have a listen to Labor.
You saw that he jetted off to a fundraiser at Sydney Harbourside this week when his own community was actually trying to get prepared for this event. So he was filling Liberal Party money bags while his own community was filling sandbags, which I think says a lot about him.
Can you believe these blokes? They're supposed to be running the country and they're giving us this, attacking Dutton for daring to leave his state and return 4 days before a cyclone. Would it have been okay to leave Queensland on the Monday, perhaps? What about the previous weekend? How long before a cyclone are politicians grounded according to Labor's rules? Murray Watt is his name. What's he on about? He's the Minister for Emergency Management, and this is how he spends his energies. What a sad excuse for a political debate we have at times in this country.